Good day, everybody. This is Jason Jimenez with the Bold Saviors, making the impossible possible in business. And today I have a very good friend of mine by the name of Jason Kohll here with me today. And I am very grateful for you to be here. Appreciate the time. Jason, for those who don't know you, could you give us a little perspective of who you are, what company you run, and what do you do right now?
Absolutely. It's great to be here. Good to be back with an old friend who I don't see often enough. Jason Kohll, CEO, Professional Sports Partners. My agency is a sports marketing agency, which, people, they usually get a little bit excited, but don't understand really what that means. The way we like to simplify it is we help brands tell their story through sports. And we're actually not only involved in sports, music, culture, kind of those are our three major buckets. That breaks down to a few different areas. We have a sales consulting side, a brand consulting side. We buy media, we create integrated campaigns, but in general, that is our business. And we're based here. We work across the country, but Houston's our home.
When I first met you, you had a list of being involved in sports in one capacity or other. And if I remember vividly, I think we were sitting at a restaurant and we were at a location, and you mentioned that I think you started with the Rockets. Is that correct?
Well, a little bit earlier than that. So I was, always really passionate about sports growing up, and then, got to college and I looked at the major options, and I saw sports management was on there. So I went down that path. I didn't really know what that would turn into. And after college, ended up in Major League Baseball with the St. Louis Cardinals, just in a sales role, but I gravitated to it, really enjoyed it. Then came down to Houston. It was 2003, right before Toyota Center opened. Started with the Rockets, spent a great 9 years there before launching the agency. And with the Rockets, I got to do a few different things, but, touched their premium, ended up running their sponsorship department. And I was fortunate. It was during Yao Ming's career, and, Asia was opening up, and there were so many opportunities. So I learned a ton in the 9 years there.
Oh, I'd imagine so. And then from the transition from the Cardinals to the Rockets, and then launching and getting engaged with what you have today. Mm-hmm. Why? What was why was it the time?
Yeah, I mean, the main factor was, as I was moving my way up in sports, I was vice president with the Rockets, and my goal was to be the CEO of a team, and I was willing to move anywhere. I met my wife in 2010, and she's from Houston, and said, if we want to be together, you're going to be here. So at that point, I pivoted and to set down roots here. Sports is a very transient industry. There's opportunities everywhere, and it's exploded over the time that I've owned the agency. There's international, and there's agencies, and there's tech companies. We decided to start our own shop, and that was because when I was on the Rocket side, we dealt with agencies, but we didn't deal with any in Houston because there wasn't a sports marketing agency here. So we felt like there's a gap. We can fill it. We can build something great. I brought in a couple silent partners who have been, really helpful in growing our agency, and we set the foundation and have gone from there. It's been over 12 years now.
What would you say would be one of the things that you took from the Cardinals and from Rockets that you absolutely has never faltered and is always still present in the way you operate and run?
That's a good question. I had a great experience both those places. The Cardinals, first of all, they were very fan focused. It was a legendary baseball town, and they had a loyal fan base, but they always delivered and over-delivered to their fans in terms of the fan experience. And then the Rockets, my first boss there was probably the most influential mentor of my career. I remember my first day there, he would say to the staff, "How's everybody feeling today?" And everyone would yell, "Great!" And I was taken aback. I thought it was hokey and didn't believe in it. And my initial reaction, just because of the person I was was to say, I'm not, what is this? I'm not doing that. And I quickly bought in. He used to say, show me someone who has a bad attitude and I'll show you a loser. And he taught me that attitude is everything in life. And I generally have a positive attitude, but, I ride the roller coaster like anyone else.
Sure.
He changed me for the better. And, I try to embody that to this day. So that was a huge factor. And then, just the experiences I had doing deals, small, medium, and large, complicated, dealing with, the venue, which we ran, but trying to get deals with our concessionaire and insurance, brokering business deals that, were also marketing deals. I just learned so much, and it was like going to school.
Yeah.
I wasn't perfect. I worked hard, and it really helped when we started the business to know what the other side was doing, because now we're often on the brand side doing deals with teams.
Sure. And especially with Yao Ming at the time, I think you were dealing with international negotiations, if you will.
Yes. I mean, the NBA has been a leader on the international side, and to be with an organization like the Rockets when they were having this massive growth with Yao was just really fortunate. I wouldn't have gotten the same experience anywhere else.
So with professional sports partnerships, or partners, right?
Partners.
What has been thus far, so far, your biggest accomplishment that you could say that I'm so grateful for this?
Well, fortunately, there's been a lot, but I'll point to what I would call the turning point of our agency. And we did well the first few years, but we're hitting a lot of singles and, hit a single, fall back, hit another single, have some failures. So we were doing fine, but the breakthrough for us was in 2016, the NCAA Men's Final Four came to Houston, and I think a year and a half before they did an RFP, and we had our eyes on it because we knew what an opportunity it was for us. It would, we felt like we were the perfect agency to handle it. Tamara Lupo, my COO, and I, we had a lot of confidence. And we were going against an incumbent agency and some other local groups, and we ended up winning the RFP. And the contacts we got through it, the promise that we were making to brands, now having the Final Four behind us and showing the results that we were able to create, it just started the ball rolling downhill. And we got the Super Bowl then in 2017. We got some massive brand clients. So that was a real turning point for us. And we've worked on like 5 of the last 7 or 8 Final Four. So our Final Four work continues again this year. We work on women's as well.
Oh, it's beautiful.
So that was a big moment for us. And, your first few years of owning a business, you're like, am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
And so that was a proof point.
And what's interesting about that is that I would assume that there was I'm committed to this because I believe in this process or this offering. I'm not changing that. And then everything else had to be adjusted or moved until you found that one opportunity that just changed everything forever.
No doubt.
Right? So stressful. Exciting, but then you also had to deal with the people who were going to help you get there.
Yes.
And I can only imagine you and I, human beings are the weakest link,
yes.
Right? So talk to me a little bit about that, because even through that, from when you started to the moment there was a breakthrough, and even probably still today as any company, we have moments where we have individuals that either believe, are just working, or are fans.
Oh, yeah.
So talk to me about that.
Yeah. Our business is a people business. I mentioned Tamara earlier. She's been
with you for a while.
She's been with us.
Yeah.
It's a couple months in, and she's been just a steady force, and she's extremely responsible for our business being where it is today. So having someone like that by your side has been really critical. We've had so many good people. We have a fantastic team now, and we've been lucky. Like Rice's sports management program has been, the guy one of the leaders over there has been someone who's just given us superstars. Kathy and Alex Lopez Negrete, my silent partners, have been just, there when I need them. Always can count on them. I've had, a great network in Houston. There's been a few people who have just been believers in us and sent us business. We have a client now at TDECU that was our client at BBVA, and we followed kind of her path.
Yeah.
So those relationships, internal, external, personal, they're everything. And kind of my job now as it's evolved is those relationships and continuing to nurture them and invest in them and make sure that, those people feel like we're paying them back as well.
100%. Yeah, because it's so then that brings me to the question of the culture. Like, what's that culture within the firm?
Yeah. That culture has evolved. The first few years, what the culture was compared to where it is today is very different. Those first few years, we were taking on too many clients, some that weren't good business for us. And, it tired people out. We lost some people who were just, the pace was high, and we were trying to build this business, and, we didn't have the learnings that we have today. Our culture is, I think, in a fantastic place today. We're continuing to try to grow it. But we defined our values a few years in, and we've stuck to those. And we have.
If you let me ask, what are they?
Yeah. So, I'll come back to that. The first Friday of every month, we go through each value, and our team talks about people that have exhibited those values. So we'll talk about team, and we'll talk about people have stepped up. Someone woke up at 5 a.m. and they've delivered for a teammate when they didn't. We talk about diversity, and that's diversity of work, diversity of, at our company, you have to be a Swiss Army knife. You can't be I'm only good at this and I'm not willing to do anything else. So we have them up on the wall. We talk about them. They're part of everything that we do day in and day out. And then just this year, we started to do retreats outside, our home office. So we're spending time. I will also mention DJ Allen. He's been, when you talk about people, he's in Las Vegas, someone we met 3 or 4 years into our business. He's a phenomenal person. He is a trainer, so he comes 3-4 times a year, spends a full day with our team, and it's all about educating our people about the dynamics within a team. Because I can feel a certain way about, I'm delivering, why is Jason not kind of responding to me? He dives into those issues that you don't even know are there.
Yeah.
And he really gets our whole team to open up, and you come out of those meetings every 3 months and you're just have a total different perspective on things. So, anyways, I went a lot of different ways there, but our culture is everything. We have to have a good culture to be a good agency.
Totally. But you also, what I gathered from what you just said is also the ability to, it's like tuning a piano. You don't do it once.
Yep.
You do it consistently throughout, whether it be at whatever cadence. Because we have bad habits and things that may come up or external things that may affect us, right?
Yep.
Which then leads me to the question of then hiring the right person and filtering through whether they are and they fit these boxes of characteristics to be a success in what you're building.
Yes.
Is critical.
Yes.
So what does that process look like for you?
Yeah, the hiring process is an inexact science. I wish it was a more exact science. Referrals are critical for us. We try to include as many people in the process as possible. People who won't even, on our team, who won't even be working with that person day in and day out. And we hire a lot of people. Our internship program is critical because we get to, be in the trenches with them, see how that goes, and ideally hire from there. The teams in town, oftentimes you have people who are working for one of the teams and they're ready to transition to the agency side. So we've gotten some from there. Luckily, we have been on a pretty good streak the past few years, so we haven't had to make too many changes. But it's also, we have to grow their careers and know that like we're investing in them and we want to see their success is our success.
Yeah.
So it's every day, and it's a mistake can really cost us. If we have one person who's not delivering, the rest of the team feels it.
Yeah, for sure. Which I can only imagine, even previously before we started, we were talking about technology. Mm-hmm. So how is that impacting the way that you either are communicating, engaging, and or even processing the product?
Yeah. So we have like many companies, we have Slack that is a huge part of just like the daily, like we have so many channels, client channels, innovation, things like that. So it's a real good resource for us to be able to communicate quickly. Technology is something like in sports there's massive investment happening right now, all sides of the sports industry. We're trying to keep up with it. We're trying to use it as a way to, better measure our clients' investment. We're doing a lot in sponsorship. If you are the naming rights partner of NRG Stadiums, you're NRG, how do you measure the impact that has on your business? We have to be ahead of the pack with that. We have to be a leader. So using technology, using every resource we have out there, and making sure we're taking best practices from across the industry.
So you have a name brand company or national brand coming to you. What are you wanting them, needing them to understand about why they should be working with you?
Yeah, well, it does depend on where the brand's positioned at the time. But in general, our world has these really large mega agencies, which are typically owned by can be private equity or huge holding groups. And the difference that we bring is, we're about a 20 to 25 person team that you're going to be working with the CEO down to our head of digital. You're going to get the best of the best on our team. And we have a standard that we stick to. It does not get watered down because we're in the trenches, Cameron and I, with everybody on our team. So no matter what your need is, we're always going to push you. Our why is reimagine sports marketing and challenge the status quo. There's a lot of brands in sports. You got to have brands that differentiate. So we are going to be an agency that pushes you, that innovates, that drives differentiation, and our standard's not going to lower.
Through your career within establishing a company and where you are today, you've had your highs and you've had your lows. This podcast is all around the Bold Saviors, and the reason we talk about the Bold Saviors is because your sacrifice that you've made to yourself, to your wife, to your children, to everyone that's involved. There's been some moments, and there's probably been a moment where has been probably the most difficult moment in your career as an agency. Talk to me about that. Talk to me about, let's start with what happened.
Yeah. I don't know. There are a few that I'll point to. I'll try to narrow it down to two or three. I left in 2012 a very stable career when I was on the team side, and I took a risk. We didn't have kids at the time. The timing really couldn't have been better, but it was super stressful. I went from a paycheck steady, I knew what I was making, to not much, just basically taking the very bare minimum. And, that continued for 4 or 5 years. So you're constantly battling that mental challenge, which is, did I make the right move? Is this going to pay off? If I knew then that hey, this is where we'll be several years in, it would have been so much easier. But when I think about my 30s, it was a lot of am I doing the right thing? Am I in the right place? I remember one night I was talking to Stephanie, my wife, about it, and she's like, what's the worst that can happen? You're going to be fine. And that was relieving because you're so in it. So I'll give you one more because I think I'm going to narrow it down to two. Then our business is doing great. We're having record growth. And then the pandemic hits in March of 2020. And we started getting calls from clients. I'm pausing. And that was, it's like we had this business that was growing and thriving. And all of a sudden, what world do we live in? I don't know. And I remember thinking at the time, like, are we going to be able to make it to the other side? Well, we not only made it, but we benefited because sports and the event business has grown substantially since then. But for a few months there, it was tough, and we had to lay off a couple people, which was terrible. We had never done it before. I hope we never have to do it again, but it was, where we were at the time.
Through those moments, there are 3 areas that I want to touch on. Who were the people in your life that actually got you through it, and why were they such a contribution that you didn't even possibly realize that you needed, but they were there? What were the tools or technologies that you either had to engage, eliminate, and or create to make sure that you streamlined to get to the other side?
Yep.
And the last question is around the areas of experience. What you now in retrospect, what did you not realize that you either already had or that you learned from those experiences?
Yeah, I would say Tamra, our COO, was the most critical factor. I mean, we talk every day normally, but we were even talking more then. And, her skill set is a little different than mine. But like we both, like that dialogue just helped, because you're in your own head and her perspective. And I remember we had one tough day and she sent me a note that morning, just like, push on through. We're going to be good. So she was critical. My dad was a critical factor. Just, he had owned a business for a long time. So hearing his experience. And then our business changed. Valuations became a much bigger part of our business. We ended up...
Valuations, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so 2020 hits, and March of 2020, and all of a sudden games stopped being played.
Yeah.
So you had all these companies across the country that were spending millions of dollars on sports marketing deals. Let's use the NRG Stadium example. Their deal's about $12 million a year. There weren't Texans games. The rodeo got canceled. Every event, every concert, there was nothing, right?
Yeah.
So that was the start. And then the second phase was those events are back, but there's no fans in the stands. So all these brands needed someone to come in and say, I'm paying $12 million. What's the impact? And the impact was different. When there's no events, okay, NRG Stadium, you don't have Texans, you don't have rodeo, you don't have any other events, but there's still people driving past your name. So like, what's the value? So we had to develop that value and then negotiate with the teams. Here's the money either back or here's what's going to be held and they can use in the future. And then we have events, but no fans. So what's the value there? Well, every asset's different. If I have my brand on mid-court, it's going to be worth a lot less if there's no fans in the stands. But then how does it affect viewership? So valuations became huge. Saatchi, who's an agency client of ours, they handle Toyota's sponsorships in most major markets in the country. They hired us to evaluate almost every Toyota deal. And that was, Toyota's one of the biggest sponsors in North America. It was a huge opportunity for us.
Who did you have to show up to be to get through it? Even when those days is like, I don't want to get up. I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this.
You had to be, our staff was looking at me like,
yeah,
what's happening? Everybody was looking at the world saying, like, this is just bizarro world, and are we safe? So I had to really be as consistent and positive as possible during that time. Even at times when I didn't feel
great.
Yeah. I mean, but you also have to be honest.
Yeah.
You have to say like, I don't know what's going to happen. I know we're going to do the right thing. And that has served us well. I think the honesty part is really important because, they're going to see through it if not.
Sure. And I think people resonate with that. I think your level of leadership, that's part of that culture.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are not an agency that we don't fake it. We are who we are. We're honest. We're, our people, like we wear our heart on our sleeves. And I think people appreciate that.
Yeah. And I think people will do almost anything because of that.
Yeah. That's the hope.
Yeah. What's coming up in the next 3 to 5 years? What's going to be changing? Where is the industry going?
Yeah. Well, the good part about where the industry is going is, when I left the team side, there weren't that many other industries that were tied into sports. There were, but not compared to what there is today. There's this mass amount of dollars coming in, a lot of it private equity, with tech companies, with, there's new sports launching, like Houston has a new women's volleyball league that's hitting here, pickleball. Who could have ever seen the massive swing to that sport? Flag football. So the NFL is investing in a big way in flag football. The 2028 Olympics are going to have it. So there's all these new things happening. So for us, we have to continue to build our resources internally. We started an events division almost 2 years ago now that is growing rapidly. And that division creates, strategically plans, and executes events. And that can be a college basketball event, that can be a brand activation at the Super Bowl, or it can be an annual meeting. Like we last month had a meeting for a company here in Houston that had former President George Bush speaking at it, and we did it from soup to nuts. So we have to make sure that we're innovating in a way of where the industry is going. You talk about AI, we have to get ahead of that. The industry is changing incredibly quickly. Women's sports, we have deals in the WNBA. We have a WNBA player who's an ambassador for one of our clients. There's, viewership is spiking. So that's an area that we're investing in. So we just have to, we got to stay ahead, and it's a fast moving track.
Yeah. Cause it's like, you kind of have to be tactical, but always pick your head up every now and then, make sure it's relevant.
Yes. Well, I was talking to someone a couple days ago. 10 years ago, if you wanted to have the most viewers possible, you wanted to be on ESPN or CBS or NBC, one of the major networks.
Yeah.
Now you have the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson fight, and everybody has Netflix, and they had over 100 million viewers. It didn't go perfectly. They'll get there on that. But the media rights space is so different today than it was even 5 years ago. So that is a space that is critical for us to stay on top of.
So what do you tell a business owner that is wanting to engage a persona? Because they feel that there's a commonality, there's a match between the individual and what they're committed to or what they want to represent. What do you tell to them of why they need to talk to you?
Yeah, so there are so many, we call them ambassadors or endorsers. There are so many opportunities out there. There's college athletes now. There's, there's legends who are often more value buy than if you get Jalen Green or CJ Stroud, someone in that situation. So what we say is ambassadors and really their influencers can be a huge part of your marketing strategy, but you need to be willing to evaluate. Don't just focus in on one. Let's evaluate the landscape. And I'll tell you, like our WNBA deal, we wanted Caitlin Clark. The brand wanted Caitlin Clark. We wanted her. It didn't end up working out.
Yeah.
We shifted to the number 2 pick, Cameron Brink, and she has been, she's gone above and beyond what we expected. She's been a perfect fit for our client. She believes in, like our client is Mattress Firm, she believes in rest and recovery and integrates it into what she does. So be willing to transition, find the right fit, because you can have someone who says, this is $100 to work with me and get social and production and an integrated campaign, or someone, with a bigger platform can say this is $10.
Yeah.
So you got to be willing to find the right fit. And a lot of these athletes want to also invest in your company now. So the deals can structure a lot of different ways.
So you touched on something, the word, and I think I learned it from you when we first met. It was cause-related marketing. Mm-hmm. And I find surprisingly that not a lot of companies really understand or actually have one. Mm-hmm. Although they want one, they aspire to have one, but they don't know exactly how to connect it or how to create it or who to actually put it together.
Yeah.
Why is that?
It's a good question. I think a lot of brands, they dance in a lot of different causes instead of like going all in with one. One of our biggest clients is Coaches versus Cancer, and that is an initiative by the college basketball coaches and the American Cancer Society. And it's this huge platform that has all different tentacles throughout the year. Suits and Sneakers Week, Get Screened. You've got, golf tournaments, Final Four, media days, and all these things. If you get a company that invests and goes all in with Coaches versus Cancer, what you can get out of that is 50, 100 times what you could if you're going to be with, I'm not going to name other nonprofits, but a variety of them, because Coaches versus Cancer will go all in on you. Coaches will support you. They will put you front and center in Final Four. They will be ready during Suits and Sneakers Week to bring your brand to life. And all your employees and your stakeholders know this is what we believe in and this is why. So for us, it's about getting brands to lean in and to build it out. And so consumers kind of understand this is exactly where you stand and what you believe in.
Yeah, because there's an element of the tangible and the untangible, and being able to realize the untangible could create the tangible.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, totally get that. So as a business where you're at right now, and if you're speaking to an entrepreneur, you're speaking to someone that is looking to start their agency or start in the areas that you're in, what are some of the things that you would tell them?
Yeah, I didn't know what I didn't know before I started it. I think I understood roughly the amount of grit that it would take, but you're going to take some hits and you got to keep going. That's like, if you don't have that personality, don't go down this path. Secondly, having a really clear vision for what space you're going to play in. We were a little bit too broad when we started, and quite honestly, we're still pretty broad, but we do have, our kind of bread and butter areas that, clients need us, valuations, events. I mean, there's just a lot of areas that we've really gone deep into, and then identify who's your target and how are you going to talk to them. And then you're going to have to really spend a lot of time. Like, our brand was a little bit second. We were always focused on other brands.
Yeah. And
Tamara and our creative team have done a great job of putting that brand first and making sure everything is high level, from our website to, the look and feel of everything that goes out to the public, social media, etc.
If somebody wants to get to know you, get to learn the company, how do they find you? What would be that last, statement that you'd want them to know, that this is who I am and this is what I'm about?
Yeah, professionalsportspartners.com is the best way to find us, or follow us on any of our social media channels. I'm pretty easy to reach, LinkedIn or any other avenue. I would say anyone who wants to enter the sports industry, let's have a conversation, whether it's a brand looking to make an impact through marketing, whether it's, we got connected to a music producer who worked with, everyone from Dr. Dre to Jay-Z, who got connected to us on Monday because they want to do more in sports. So we want to have conversations with those that, want to. Sports is different, right? There's nuances that you have to know about, and it's a small industry if you're in it, but you need an expert. And if you don't have an expert, you can get taken advantage of.
For sure. You said something earlier that reminded me of my mom and my dad. They went in taking new ventures or making new decisions. The first question was, what the hell do you have to lose?
Yeah.
What would you say the second question would be for you?
I think it would be, maybe it's not a question, it's a statement. It's go. And that's a little bit of how I live my life. Like, I want to be productive all the time, and you get better at being efficient and understanding what productive means.
Yeah.
But finding ways to build relationships, push the ball forward, focus on internal, all those things that you hone in and make sure those are your key factors every day. But I love what do you have to lose, because a lot of times it's all in your head.
100%. Yeah. So what's that one characteristic that you would say is your strong suit that has gotten me to where I'm at?
Yeah, I guess I would say relationship building. I like meeting people. I like being out there. I like face-to-face time. When COVID hit and we weren't face-to-face, as soon as the world opened up and you could see people again, a lot of people weren't doing it. And I said, this is an advantage for us, because if you get face-to-face, you're going to build relationships and do more deals. And for us, that paid off. If someone wants to see me who lives in Las Vegas or LA, that FaceTime is going to pay off tenfold. So those relationships, that is my strongest suit, and that's something that we spend a lot of time on day in and day out.
Well, on that note, I'm telling you, I can't thank you enough for being here.
It's great to be here.
You've been someone that I have admired so much since I met you. You have also been someone that I have followed. I absolutely love what you've been doing and where you've been building, and watching the product when you push it out. It's been inspiring.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Well, the feeling's mutual.
Yeah.
It's been a great relationship.
Very much so. Very much so.